Welcome to the Mission First People Always podcast. We're glad you're here. And now our host, Dr. Mike Patterson.
Hey everyone, it's your old pal, Dr. Mike, here to welcome you to another episode of the Mission First People Always podcast, where we talk about leadership, teamwork, better communication, and having better lives. Today, our topic is personal leadership and taking control of your health, fitness, and vitality in a way that will allow you to be a better leader of your team and at your organization. In my work as a consultant, trainer, and coach, I encounter incredibly dedicated people who don't stop working when the clock hits 5 o'clock. Instead, they do whatever it takes to accomplish the mission. And this often means long hours, lots of travel, meals on the go, and precious little time for workouts and recovery. And for many, this pace is constant. It seems like it never ends. And for some, they're pushing themselves into exhaustion. So if that's you, or you know someone like that, or you don't want to be like that, we've got an opportunity for you today. My guest today is going to bring some insight that will help us all feel better, increase our energy levels, and be healthier. So this conversation is for my guest today is Rebecca Macieira-Kaufmann. She's a former Fortune 50 global executive with a demonstrated track record of leading highly successful business turnarounds, scaling new businesses, and expanding operations globally. She's the founding member of RMK Group, where she advises hundreds of startup CEOs and their C-suite executives on how to fast-track business growth. But the reason I really wanted you to meet her today is because she's the co-author of a book. It looks like this, called The FitCEO, Be the Leader of Your Life, which focuses on helping leaders support their holistic health and well-being. The book provides a framework for staying healthy while leading a busy life at work, at home, and at play. And finally, Rebecca, welcome to the Mission First People Always podcast. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. You're hired.
Well, I can always, I've got about 7 jobs now, so I can always use another one. It's really good to have you on the podcast, Rebecca. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. I've been reading your book this weekend. I've enjoyed it greatly. It's an easy and very practical read. I love the fact that at the end of every section or every chapter, there's something to do. You can start taking action right away with the book, and there's some reflection questions. I love that. That's the style I used when I wrote my last book. So appreciate that. Give us the big picture. What's the book all about and who's it for?
Great. Thank you. Well, thank you, Mike. It's great to be here. I'm honored to be on your show, and thanks you to your audience for listening. So the book is all about total health intentionally as a person, as a leader. And it's really all my hats from my 30 plus year career of traveling 200 to 300,000 miles a year, living in hotels, eating in restaurants, managing thousands of people, and trying to show up fresh and energetic and able to inspire people and also get all the work done. And so over my career, I wrote down all the things that people would ask me and that I ended up telling them or sharing with them about how I managed my time and my life. And then at one point, I met Lillian at the time. She was my personal trainer when I was CEO of a cross-border bank and had very little time. And while we were at work together, I said to her, "Hey, I'm writing this book someday. Would you be interested in being my co-author?" And she said, "No one's ever asked me to write a book with them, Rebecca." Sure. And then fast forward 10 years, I called her up and said, "Okay, I'm writing it." And that's what has now become FitCEO, Be the Leader of Your Life. So it really is for busy executives. It's for busy people running their lives, running their homes, which is a home office, running their families, which is a multidimensional business affair in many, many ways. And so we all could use this book in all ages, all roles.
You know, you said something in we just chatted for just a few minutes before we hit record for the conversation today, and you said that the book provided you with an opportunity to do mentoring at scale. What do you mean by that? That's a cool idea. What do you mean by
Yeah. Well, I love mentoring people, and it's been a big part of my role as a leader. And yet, there just isn't time in the day to mentor all the people and share one's ideas with everybody. And so, really, this book is a quick 2 hour, 2.5 hour read. It's in 30 chapters, so you can read it one chapter a day for 5 minutes. With at the end of each chapter, immediate and imperfect action or reflections or get into your body. And it allows someone to hear all the things that I learned over my experience. And in some ways, when you've lived a certain amount of life, you probably know 80% of this book or have heard it already, or maybe even 90%. But it's these reminders, and I think small incremental habits that I'm trying to bring to people, that it is easy if you do it this way versus hard. So, for instance, you want to rejuvenate your energy in the middle of the day, step outside for 2 minutes and get some sunshine, or have a cup of green tea, or listen to a piece of music for 1 minute. Just little hacks throughout the day versus the idea that for me to be healthy, I have to buy new gym clothes, join a gym, block my calendar for 3 hours, sweat, shower. Like, that's just a much bigger hurdle. And one can get there. And those are fantastic things to do. But you got to start small to make these small incremental habits a way of life.
Yeah, I like that. This is not this heavy, demanding routine that you've got to layer over your already full schedule. It's not about becoming a gym rat where you're there for 2-3 hours a day. These are little things that everyone can do. And one of the lines that caught my eye as I was reading the book is you write, "Fitness is the fountain of youth." And so I'm, not getting any younger. So that caught my attention. Why do you say fitness is the fountain of youth?
Well, fitness makes you feel good. You breathe better. You're more agile, nimble, stronger. Um, and I'm always observing it. So, for instance, my sister's now a grandmother and has 3 grandkids, and bending down to the floor and picking up a grandkid and getting on the floor with them and playing. If you're not fit, that's really hard.
Yeah.
So I think some of these things about fitness are they're about everyday life and just feeling great in everyday life. I mean, the strength it takes to um, put a suitcase over your head on an airplane, roll it around an airport, move it in and out of taxis or Ubers or Lyfts or whatever. These all require physical fitness. You don't want to injure yourself while you're traveling on business. So I was very conscious for me of building upper body strength to put an overhead, a bag in the overhead compartment. I'm 5'1". Those things are not built for people who are 5'1".
Yep.
And so there's just all kinds of things that fitness does. It allows you to lead your life, feel good, get good oxygen flow, and all the chemicals your body produces when you do work out are happiness.
So your life on the road sounds a bit like my life and the way my life has been for the last 20 some years. Planes, trains, and automobiles every week. Get here, go there. Restaurant meals, hotel stays, always on the go. I've personally struggled with maintaining. I'm pretty good with my exercise and fitness when I'm home because I've got some things I can do here in my home and I've got access to things and I feel like I've got more control of my time. But on the road, it's harder. So, what would you recommend? What's a simple exercise program that you can do anywhere from a hotel room? Maybe it's in an airport. How do you do it consistently and simply?
Yeah, much harder. And so the barriers have to be much lower to make it happen. So a couple of things. If I have 10 minutes, I might throw a towel from the bathroom on the ground as a mat in a hotel room and just do some push-ups, some sit-ups, some squats, 10 minutes. Just get the blood flowing, and that builds strength. Squats build strength, sit-ups build core, and push-ups build your upper arms. Like if you did that, 3.5 minutes each of those, just for 10 minutes in the morning before you start your day, you're going to feel much better, like even more awake at that first meeting if you're on a different time zone. 10 minutes. If you have 20 minutes, I always carry like a band, those little plastic bands that
Uh-huh.
are resistance bands. Put that above your knee or on your ankles and just squat a little bit and walk across the hotel room, 3 or 4 times. Then do 10 push-ups, 10, 20 sit-ups, and then do that 3 times. So maybe that would take you 15, 20 minutes. You've got now a little routine that costs, those bands cost $2, $3. They weigh nothing. Throw it in your suitcase and your mats, that extra towel in the hotel room. If you have a whole half an hour and the hotel has a pool, go swim for 20 minutes, so you break it up. So I always never do I take it out of my suitcase. I always have a bathing suit and this little bag that has those resistance bands, and I throw on a jump rope. So if I have a place, carpet's hard to jump rope on, but if there's a space that I can jump rope outside the hotel, I'll jump rope for a few minutes because that's really good cardio. So these are just my hacks, and I try to do that, setting the goal of 10 to 25 minutes a day when I'm traveling.
Well, I mean, that's doable.
Yeah.
Everybody can do that, and I have to admit, I kind of like those things that you can do in the hotel room. For some reason, when I get back to the hotel room at night, I'm sometimes hesitant to go back out. That's just me. So being able to do some things in the hotel room that are useful and not too onerous sounds like a good plan. So some
One
big,
other thing I want to recommend, Mike, and
sure.
I know you mentioned that you're now using YouTube a lot more. I discovered in COVID that this is what I did pre-COVID, but with COVID, I discovered there's tons of like 15-minute YouTube yoga routines or YouTube dance routines. So if you want to put on some music and dance, you can follow along with a 15-minute or 10-minute dance routine on YouTube.
There you go. And then they can watch my podcast on YouTube after they
Exactly.
exhaust themselves dancing.
Exactly. And in the book, which someone should carry with them everywhere they go, we have all the exercises in the back of the book. So we have literally how to do jumping jacks or push-ups or squats, just if you're like, I don't remember, or tricep dips on a chair in the hotel room, or just lots of little things you can do so that if you're going to do it 10 minutes every morning, maybe you do something different each morning.
Indeed. So there's a little bit of guidance on exercise. Now tell us about healthy eating. So this has been my personal downfall over the years. Eating in a restaurant, the food is really good, and you seem to, in many places, you get a lot of it. And if you're traveling on an expense account, well, why not? So how do you do better? Eating out all the time. And many of the dinners, at least in my experience, you're out with your team or out with clients, and it's a big 2-hour affair with appetizers and dessert and wine and the whole thing. Um, how do you stay how do you stay true to a healthy consumption of food and calories under those conditions?
Yeah, super hard. It's all about habits. So I will say the habits I started to do is when I really simplified my life. I'm not saying everyone should do this, but I just stopped eating meat when I traveled and only ordered fish or chicken for years. So that just got rid of half the menu that then had with it typically mashed potatoes, whatever. That's for me. Not everyone should do that. The key is getting vegetables and protein. So like I will start with a salad and then I'll have like some kind of grilled protein with vegetables. Right there, it's low cal, right there. It's vegetables and proteins. And I love wine, so I skip the bread. You can't have all the things one wants. So I trade off. If I really want the bread, then I wait on the wine. Or if I really want a dessert, then I don't have, a second half glass of wine or something. So it's conscious that I really need vegetables and protein. Of course, you need some carbs, but you don't need all of them that come before you start eating. So the other trick is that if I do want the bread, I can't have the bread until the food comes.
Okay.
Because if you eat the bread before the food comes, you get full on the bread. which really isn't serving you well. Whereas if you eat the salad and the protein and then the bread, it's just much better for you. And you're already full, so you will eat way less bread. So just same thing with the wine. Like try not to start the wine before the food. Like you can order it, but like try to have the wine versus the food arrives and you're already through a glass of wine. So it's just these little tricks of like drink my water first or order a sparkling water first, and then I order my wine, or I even say to the waiter, bring my wine with the salad. And don't so I'm not sitting there having wine and bread.
And none of this is you're delaying gratification, not denying yourself these things that you like. One of my personal things I've been doing lately is when they bring bread automatically, I'll ask the server to take it away. If they ask if I want it, I will say no. And that's a big deal for me, but it has helped a lot.
Right.
You mentioned water. I know you've got a section in the book, one of the short chapters there talks about the importance of drinking a lot of water. I've got my hydro flask right here, so I'm a good student of your training. How important is water? How much should we drink? What happens when we don't drink enough water?
Right. Well, you'll feel really tired if you get dehydrated, and it can lead to very grave consequences if dehydrated. But a lot of us start the day with coffee. Really, you want to start your day with at least a glass of water, ideally 2 glasses of water. Because if you really think about it, when you fast all night while you slept, right, the most you are when you wake up is dehydrated. So ideally, when you wake up, drink a glass or 2 of water. One that just gets your system going in a really clean way. Then start your coffee and your breakfast. And again, have protein at every meal. It's really critical. And throughout the day, have water when you're exercising, with each meal, in between meals. And ideally, depending on, your amount of exercise and weight and everything, they say 8 glasses of water. But for someone else, it might be 6. For someone else, it might be 10. But enough water that you really. So for me, it's easy. I get there because I drink 2 glasses in the morning. And then I probably have 2 or 3 when I'm working out. That's 5 right there. And then the other 3 glasses throughout the day. So it's not hard. But if you start the day with 2 glasses of water, it's really easy to stay hydrated.
So you mentioned coffee. I know there's some debate in the literature about uh, uh, coffee being actually good for you and coffee not being good for you. And maybe it's the way your body is functions. Where are you on the coffee debate? I'm kind of pro black coffee as a way to keep going at least before the noon hour.
Yeah, coffee's great. Everything is about um, everything in moderation, including moderation. So I don't know, 1, 2, 3 cups of coffee is fine, but 10 isn't probably for most people. They're
Yeah.
about too caffeinated. Sugar is not great, but some people, that's how they drink their coffee. But sugar and cream and puffs and pumps and syrups. And I think what happened to coffee is it's gotten so caloric versus a cup of coffee, right? But that's where the danger comes in for a lot of people, or too much caffeine if you're going beyond something reasonable. But think of it as, yeah, I think what you're describing, drinking coffee in the morning. I drink black tea in the morning. Um, it has a lot to it. It's warm, it's a ritual, it's caffeine. It's good for you in many ways. It opens up blood vessels. There are lots of good things about coffee or caffeine.
Okay,
But too
good.
much of it, yeah, is not good.
You're not anti-coffee and moderation in all things. Good. So, we've talked about easy ways to exercise and the importance of movement. We talked a little bit about eating on the road. We've talked about drinking water and staying hydrated. What are some other sort of, I know your approach is holistic and it's about both physical and mental well-being. And so when you're in the middle of a stressful day, how can we take breaks and re-energize ourselves just to maybe get a boost in our productivity in the latter part of the day?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many wonderful ways to increase your energy. One of the most basic ones is put your arms up in the air. And when you try that, It opens up your heart. It opens up your lungs. And so if you're just feeling tired in a moment, put your arms up in the air, stand up and move around. But just if you can't even do that, putting your arms up in the air opens you up. So that's like the most basic.
Super easy.
Yeah. And if you're stressed, walk outside for a few seconds, get a little bit of sunshine or sky or fresh air. If you're alone and you're stressed, maybe you just put on a quick 1 minute piece of music that either is like a fast piece that makes you happy or a relaxing piece that feels like a spa. And then go back to your meeting or go back to that call you have to make or call a friend for 1 minute who will listen to you or just do the jumping jack. There's so many different things like just shift. I call it shifting. It could be physically shifting or it could be mentally shifting, but it's a great way to change the direction of stress. Now, obviously, if the stress is big and huge and a major problem and someone died, that's very different. But if it's just that typical anxiety that comes from 12 meetings in a row and feeling behind on everything and the emails pinging, breathe. The most basic way to calm your body is to breathe and then one step at a time, one foot in front of the other. Tackle 10 emails. You can't tackle 100. And be kind to yourself. It's okay. I can't do 100 emails right now, but I can do 10.
Is there I really like the idea of kind of stretching at your desk, going outside, taking a quick walk around the building, whatever it is. Is there a prescribed rhythm for that? Is it every 50 minutes, get up and do something? Is it every 2 hours, or does it depend on the type of work you're doing, where you're at? I imagine if you're leading a training session like I often do, it's I can't stop in the middle of a conversation with a class. What do you say about that?
Well, two things. One, you can, but the ideal time is 50 to 55 minutes is a great time. So that every hour, basically, you are standing up and moving, even for a minute. And if you are teaching a class, what I'll often do if I'm doing a 2-hour session with a group is I'll at the hour mark or something, or I'll just sort of read the room and say, okay, everyone, let's stand up, arms in the air, let's sit back down. And it's funny, it takes 2 seconds, but they all feel it.
Yeah.
Their energy just shifted. So it's about shifting energy, and things that I talk about in the book is even thinking of yourself as a Formula One car. They pull over, they change their tires, they get gas, constantly being serviced by like 15 people in 3 seconds. So it's what we all need. We're high performing machines. In fact, we're the highest performing entity I know of. Humans are amazing, and we need breaks and we need more gas. So sometimes a bio break, if you got a 3-hour meeting with a group, there has to be a break in there for 15 minutes. Bio break, get a cup of tea, get a cup of water, get a cup of coffee, whatever that is, that's moving. But try not to go get sugar. If you're hungry, go get some nuts, right? Not salted, ideally. So one of the things I do in my bag when I'm on the airplane is I bring my own unsalted nuts so I don't eat salted ones, right? And they're delicious and they're great. Just ways to refresh without hurting yourself.
We're talking to Rebecca Macieira-Kaufmann, who is a co-author of the book FitCEO. And what I'm enjoying about this conversation, Rebecca, and all these hacks you're giving us about fitness and enjoying more energy and vitality in our lives, is that nothing you've said so far is hard. I haven't heard anything that I couldn't do, everybody I know couldn't do, my 87-year-old mother couldn't do. I mean, these are pretty simple things. And so I appreciate the accessibility of your approach for everyone. So how important is play? And we work really hard, but I fear that we don't take enough time for play. And is there a difference between play and rest? Are they different things? Same thing, different things, two sides of a coin? What's your take on that?
I do think there is something different between play and rest, because rest is more, you can actively rest, but I think it's more passive. And play to me is more active. And play is critical. And there's so many ways to play while at work. So I think I mentioned it in the book a number of times, but I keep a copy of Alice in Wonderland. I'm looking at it on my desk. And when things get really crazy, sometimes I'll think, "Who shrunk the door?" And it'll just make me giggle. I can just open the book to any page, or I'll think, "What are they smoking?" Those mushrooms or whatever they were doing in Alice in Wonderland. So I have a lot of fun. And when I'm in a group meeting and it gets too crazy, I'll say, "What rabbit hole are we going down?" We all use that term. That's from Alice in Wonderland. So I think you can bring in humor. That's like a common reference. So far, it's not political to talk about Alice in Wonderland that I know of. Some of the fun things go away over time because they're inappropriate in the new world. But I do find you can bring play in safely and humor safely. You have to be conscious of the current environment, but um, just have fun and thanking people, smiling, play on words, jokes. There are danger sides to them, but I do try to bring humor into meetings at work, and I do try to have fun. And then one of the things that I'm very conscious about as I managed large teams is I used to make the goals and then into different bite sizes. So if we had like 1,000 tasks that had to be done, then every 10 that we achieved, maybe we'd have a coffee break or a bagels with Rebecca or a party. And every 100, maybe we'd have a bigger party. And we got the 1,000 tasks done in increments of one at a time, but we celebrated every 10. And little things like at Halloween, we'd have Halloween cookies and celebrate those 10 that got done. And then when we got to 100, maybe we'd have an evening event or a luncheon or something. And we did achieve our 1,000-step goal, and we celebrated every 10.
Mm,
And
I
it was
like
fun.
it. I like that. Maybe you've seen this in the news lately, but I think several news outlets have reported on it. The fact that a lot of young investment bankers on Wall Street and other places where investment bankers work, these young people early in their careers trying to make a name for themselves and find a place in this very competitive industry are working 100 hours a week plus. And I believe, if I recall the stories correctly, one actually, or maybe one or two, have actually suffered some severe health consequences. Maybe one even died as a result of working like a 130-hour week on several consecutive weeks. And now some of those big banks are stepping in and saying, no, you can only work 80 hours a week or 100 hours a week. It's still a phenomenal number of hours, but we're going to supervise the fact that you can only work 100 hours a week, and we're going to manage that. And you get like guaranteed 12 hours off every 2 weeks, or you get one weekend a month off. How would you advise young people going into that competitive world, and maybe the senior executives who create this environment for those folks? What advice would you give them?
Get a new job.
Okay.
Well, I mean, everything's about culture, right? So I was in the retail banking side. I wasn't in the investment banking side. And we worked long hours, but long hours for us were probably 60-hour weeks, right? Not what you just described. I think it's really key. And the studies have shown from like the Exxon Valdez accidents and a lot of the road accidents is that people, when they are sleep deprived, their body will sleep
Mm.
wherever they are. Your body will always find a way to sleep. And so you'll just realize you fell asleep at your desk, or the thing is, you don't want to be behind a car. So you've got to be safe. So I think really important, whatever you do to negotiate with your management, if you are going to work 80-hour weeks, and that you have a place to take a nap if you need it, if you're not getting sleep, because the stress can really hurt your sleep cycle. So I think the key on those is enforcing boundaries around sleep, eating, and hydration. I think those are minimal. If you don't sleep, you're going to get ill. I mean, your immune system just won't work. And then the problem is your body will sleep when it needs it. So if you're sitting in a subway, your body might just fall asleep from that movement of the car. So I think the key is being safe. And so whatever you do, or if you do take one of those jobs, figure out for yourself, like everyone's different. Some people can sleep 6 hours a night and they're fine. Some people need 9. Everybody is different. But knowing what you need is going to be really important. And then making it work, with your management of having that rest.
So let me put you in a scenario, Rebecca. You are advising a CEO in a large public company, and the CEO looks across the table and says, "Rebecca, I'm a business person. I've got to drive shareholder value. I've got to deliver results to my stakeholders. What's the business case for health and fitness for my people?"
Well, they'll be much more productive. I mean, healthy people, think about it, much more productive. And all the studies show it that when you're healthy and happy, you get your work done faster and better quality. You can do all kinds of exams and tests around multitasking. No one multitasks, they switch tasks, and the cost of switching is very high. It actually reduces productivity by over 30% when you're constantly switching what you do. So like staying focused and having focused time that you can actually concentrate, whatever that is. If it's 10 minutes, 30 minutes, you'll get work done. So one thing at a time and get it done, or one piece of a thing at a time and get it done. That's what I meant by if you have to get a financial analysis done and you think it would take half an hour, if you focus, it will take you 5 hours if you get interrupted every 10 minutes, right? So then create that focus time and then take your break.
So focus, breaks, be more productive. Rebecca, as my listeners know, and you may know at this point, I end every conversation, and we are drawing to the conclusion of our conversation. I end every conversation with a very simple question to my guest. And I love to do this because I want people who listen to this episode and each of my episodes to actually start doing something differently as a result of something they've heard from my guest. And so here's my question to you, Rebecca. If you could give one simple tip to the listeners that we are mentoring at scale today, that something they can start doing right away, maybe this afternoon or tomorrow after they listen to this podcast, to make themselves feel better and ultimately perform better and live happier, more successful lives, what would that little thing be?
A little thing would be add one piece of movement to your day today. Is it either take the steps instead of the elevator if you can do that in your building, or park a few blocks away from wherever you're going next and then walk 3 extra blocks to the location and back, or get off your bus 1 stop or 2 stops earlier and walk the last few blocks if it's safe. Be safe. Just add a few extra steps to your day every day. Take the stairs instead of an escalator.
Again, you're consistent, if nothing else, Rebecca. You keep giving us ideas that everyone can do. Nothing you've said today is impossible or even difficult. And these tips all come from the fifth CEO, Be the Leader of Your Life. I'd encourage you to grab a copy of that. I thank you, Rebecca, for being a great guest on the Mission First People Always podcast. Again, we do this podcast to help you be a more effective leader, to build stronger teams, and to just be better, be a better human being. So I thank you for listening today. Rebecca's contact information is in the show notes, as well as some key points from our conversation today. To all my listeners, thank you for being so committed to being part of this work we're doing. Rebecca, again, thank you. And to everyone, I say have a great week. God bless. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you want to create a strong, more people-centric and empowered culture for your organization, visit drmikepatterson.com.